excited to sit and have this conversation with Dana Austin today, who's been in the financial realm for 5 years. She's bought several houses over the years as well. So this is a great topic for her and I to discuss. I'm excited.
Yeah, so I think I wanted to start out by talking about the goal. Everyone's goal of buying a house, ultimately should be to have your house paid off by retirement, because, home buying isn't for everyone. Everyone is in different phases of life. So, I currently own a home, but Carrie and Tony, they moved and they're getting ready to open an office, but they know that they're not going to stay in one place for very long. So renting is a good option.
Right now, renting is what we're going to do. We do not overpay for a place to live ever. And this market is just out of control crazy. So we will never overpay. So we're always looking for a deal. In this today's market of real estate, there is not a deal to be had. So we will be waiting and renting until the deals are brought back.
Yeah, I think that's one thing to remember for sure, is that patience is a big, huge thing when you're even, thinking about buying or renting or whatever you're going to do, because, if you rush into things, we've done that a couple of times. I've rushed into deals with houses and they've cost me money every time.
Oh.
So yeah, so let's not do that. So most people, when they start out getting ready to buy a house, their first thing is, usually going to a mortgage broker to find out how much house they can get pre-qualified for before you even talk to a real estate agent. Because, if you do call an agent and say, oh, I want to look for a house, they're going to refer you back to a mortgage broker, always.
Exactly.
So, and then the mortgage broker is basically going to look at your debt to income ratio and see how much house they think you can afford. And they will always approve you for more than you can realistically afford. So don't go by what they say. I recommend that everyone talk to their financial advisor before they consider buying a house, or when they're even preparing for it, because you have to know how much money you can realistically pay out every month based on your income and how much money you have saved.
Absolutely, because that mortgage person doesn't know that you have two kids you're putting through baseball and ballet and all the extracurricular things you do in your life. They have no clue. So of course, they're just going to give you the most money that they can. And that's not ever accurate for your budget.
Right. So the typical rule of thumb when you're going to buy a house and thinking about how much you can afford is that your mortgage payment should never be more than a quarter of what you're bringing home. So it's after taxes and everything. Just look at your final paycheck stubs for the month and then divide that into 4, and that's what you get. And that's because you want to be able to have money left over to save. If if your house payment is half of your income, if you get sick for a couple of weeks and don't go to work, you're not gonna be able to afford groceries. And that's happened to me too. I don't think my house payment was that high, but I definitely had some times where we went through not working for extended periods. So so you also need enough money for your down payment. I think an FHA loan is 3.5% these days. Down. A conventional loan is 5% down, and to avoid paying PMI, you have to have 20% down. So you've got to have your down payment. You also have to have money for an appraisal, home inspections, and that's stuff that like most people don't even really talk about. Is like when you go to buy a house and you get under contract, you have 10 days to do an inspection, which everyone does. And they'll tell you what's wrong with the house, so you have time to back out if it's just too much stuff and you're like, nah, that's not good, but you have to come up with the money for that. And if you are planning on putting every penny that you have for the down payment, you're going to be like scrambling to find $500 for an appraisal and another 500 for a home inspection. I don't remember how much home inspections are these days, but it's somewhere in the $500 to $1,000 range, depending on who you pick. you also have to remember moving costs. Like that's something that people don't think of. I mean, you can either go the cheap route and rent a U-Haul for a couple of days, but that's still a couple $100.
It sure is.
And if you don't want to do the work, or you don't have time to do the work and you want to hire movers, that can be $2,000 to $3,000 depending on how much work they do. And if you have a 2-story house, it costs more because you have to go up the stairs. I found that out when we called around, and I was just like, I'm not willing to pay that.
A liability factor for sure.
Yeah. I think other things that came up when we were buying was just eating out more than normal because you're not cooking because you're so busy, and there's just a lot of other things that go into it. So I think, I don't know, have you ever, when you've moved, did you have other like weird things that popped up and you're just like, oh, I never would have thought of that?
Yes, I bought a house in Santan Valley, and the screens did not have tinting to them that helped with the sun. And so
Oh,
I had a huge expense of buying sunscreens for my house that I bought in Santan Valley, Arizona, because you absolutely need those to help reduce your air conditioning bill. That was a $500 bill, and I got a deal on the screen. So I can't even imagine paying full price for sunscreens on your house. Plus, you want to
right.
buy room darkening shades or curtains because that electric bill is going to be ridiculous if you don't have room darkening blinds or curtains or whatever. So that's another $500 to cover all your windows on the inside as well. You just don't think about these things. And then you're going to get in and hate your faucets and the light fixtures. And then there's going to be carpet damage from the movers. And it's just never ending.
Yeah. That's definitely one of the things that I was thinking of. And I was actually talking to Adam last night about like the things that came up when we moved the last time. And most of it was little stuff. I mean, we've been in this house for 4 years, and we're still, on our list is we want to remodel our kitchen because it's great. Our kitchen's awesome. We love it. But like some of our appliances need updating because like our oven, there's buttons, all the buttons are worn off. So you have to just
Oh,
guess
no.
of if you're going to turn it on, like with where the button is to turn it on. It's like they've been broken, and it's not even an old stove. It's just, the control panel, I think all of them that were made that year were just bad or something. But I mean, there's
Oh,
definitely things we
gosh.
want to do, but we've been talking about this stuff since we moved in, so we're gradually, little by little, doing it. But some of the first things we had to do was buy some furniture because we went from a 1,500 square foot house to like a 3,000 square foot house
Oh,
with a
goodness.
loft, and the I mean, so we not that we had to fill it up right away. It definitely wasn't the case there, because, well, we budget for things and we save. So we probably spent a good 2 years looking for a new kitchen table and stuff like that, because we wanted to buy the right stuff too. We don't go buy furniture that's cheap just to fill the space.
Exactly.
We took our time and we saved up and budgeted for things, and that helps a lot. So I always, like, now that I've done this a few times, when you go buy a house, one of the things that you got to make sure you do is I suggest to people to have a whole completely separate savings account just for your house, your down payment fund, basically. And then you still need your regular emergency fund with your 3 to 6 months of expenses, and you need another account for like your repairs and all that stuff. And so by having it separated like that, it helps you mentally go, okay, this money right here, this is our down payment. And when you talk to the bank and when you talk to your real estate agent and everybody who's involved in the process, exactly, this is how much money we have for our down payment and closing costs. I mean, closing costs, it's not just like, I think I figured it up with the different amounts down, and the average home price in our area right now, the median home price is $485,000.
Wow.
Sounds nuts, but anyway. So if you're going to look for a house that's 485,000, you're going to need at least $16,975 to put down. So usually that you have that 16, almost 17,000, plus, and that's the absolute minimum that you would be putting down probably. And then you need to have probably an extra, I don't know, $3,000 to $4,000 in your other accounts that you're not touching, because you don't want to get in a situation where you move in and you can't buy groceries because you used every penny that's in your bank account, because they will, I mean, they will do that. Those mortgage companies and the people who are working on your closing stuff, they can see in your accounts because they require you to share your account information with them so that, you know, they can make sure that you have the money in there and you're not borrowing it from other places, and they'll use every penny. So you have to have your accounts there that are for your emergencies and the extra money, and you don't tell them about those accounts. I mean, and you only tell them about those accounts if it comes into where you're going to have to take a little out of there to come up with the money. But if it's less than $500, you don't need to tell them about it, I don't think. So, I mean, it's just little things like that, that if you don't have somebody on your side who is helping you walk through that process, they'll push you around.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's what we've got for today. Hopefully it's been eye-opening, and I have some other stuff that is gonna come up this week that we'll be sharing. I'll share some more videos with some other little tips. So the other thing I wanted to mention before we turn this off is that if you're watching the replay, I should have probably said this before, but if you're watching the replay, do a hashtag replay in the comments, and, you know, maybe comment something that you've ran into when you've been moving or buying a house. I also want to maybe put a few more things about renting later this week, because renting is good. It's not, everybody always says you're throwing your money away if you're renting, and that's not true. It can be a good thing. Also, between now and September 30th, if you react to the post, invite some people to the group, and also for each comment where you have more than 5 words, it's got to be more than 5 so that, you know, Facebook will actually show it to people. Then we're going to enter you in a giveaway for some gift cards. So definitely make sure that you're commenting and sharing and inviting people to the group, because, you know, we want to spread this good information to as many people as possible, because, you know, nobody likes to wake up one day and be like, man, nobody ever told me this stuff. Well, this is
Exactly.
the stuff I'm gonna tell you. So
We need to know what we don't know.
always. Always. So anyway, everybody have a good day. We'll see you next time.
Bye.